Hello students, welcome to a lesson through the virtual training center of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher, and in this lockdown period, since we are not able to go to school, children, we will be doing many lessons here online through the virtual class. So come on, let's proceed to our lesson for today.
The lesson that we have selected to do today is lesson number 1.5 from your English textbook, and the lesson is based on the life of a very brave girl, and the girl's name is Joan of Arc. Okay, it is a lesson based on war, based on bravery. Okay, and it also will show you how selflessly a very young girl of hardly 17 years, she decided to go on the war path for her nation, and she had to also sacrifice her life for her country. Later on, she was given sainthood by the people of France. So this will be the story that we will look at in short today. Afterwards, we will look at some exercises also from your textbook, and then we will do some grammar in your story. Alright, now this lesson has been divided into two parts. So the first part we'll be doing it today, and the next part we will do when we meet next time. So in the first half of this lesson today, let us try and find out what the story of this brave young girl, Joan, was. Now before looking at the story of Joan, let us look at some familiar stories which we know of. We know about many brave queens or many brave women in our country as well, who picked up the sword and who fought with the invaders. Now one such queen was Queen Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi. We all know her story, and there have been movies also in order to celebrate this queen of Jhansi, Lakshmi Bai. Okay. Then in India we had another very brave queen which we do not talk much about, and that was Razia Sultan. Now she was the first and the last woman sultan of Delhi. So you must be understanding that in those times, in the medieval times, how difficult it must have been for a woman to, in a male dominated world, sit on the throne as the Sultan of Delhi and also do justice to her job. So these are some of the female, you can say, brave women from our country. Okay, some stories of bravery of women from our country. There are many such other women also. But in our story today, the heroine of our story is Joan of Arc. And she is a legendary, you can say, warrior, and she's a legendary woman who brought much glory to France. Now all this happened, the story of Joan of Arc happened during the 100 Years' War, which took place between England and France from 1337 to 1453. So for a period of 100 years, there was constant war going on between England and France. And the English controlled many parts in France, many provinces in France. Okay, and this particular part of the story is connected to a place called as the city of New Orleans, and it was held by the British. This was a property of France, or a city in France, which was held by the British. And the heroine of our story today, that is Joan, she wanted to free this particular place, New Orleans, from the hands of the British soldiers. So that is how the story started. So you will see that this is Joan of Arc. She was also called as the Maid of Orleans. Okay, she was called as the Maid of Orleans because she fought for the liberation of this place called as New Orleans. Now the story of Joan is very simple. She was a peasant girl who lived in medieval France, and she believed that God had chosen her to lead France to victory in its long running war with England. So there was this 100-year war going on between France and England, and Joan of Arc, who was a simple peasant girl means she was born into a family of farmers, right? And she believed that God had chosen her That is, she was not doing it out of her own will, but she felt that it is a command of God that she should lead France in its victory with England. Alright, so then what did she do is she went and met one of the majors over there. Now if you look at the lesson, you will see that there are many officers who are part of this lesson. So she went and met a person called as Robert, who was leading the French army. Okay, but this Robert was not at all ready to listen to Joan's arguments, because he felt that she's a woman, and what good will she do fighting against such a huge power that is in fighting against so many soldiers of England. But Joan was very adamant that she be allowed to fight the war for France against England. Okay, and Joan went to war, and she was the first woman in medieval society to lead an army. So that distinction she has even today. She was the first woman lady, or she was the first lady soldier who led an entire army in the medieval society. And remember, she had no kind of military training because she was just a peasant girl. And Joan led her army to New Orleans, and which led to a string of battles which Joan won. So it was not just the first battle which she won, but she won many different battles for France. And her last battle was on May 1430 in Paris, when she was captured by the English. Okay, so that was more or less, you can say, the end of her story. And therefore on the 30th of May 1431, when she was hardly 19 years of age, Joan was taken to an old marketplace and she was burnt at the stake. Can you see? Burning someone at the stake means you tie someone to a pole and you douse that person with petrol or whatever, and then you set that person on fire. So it was just at the age of 19, she was hardly 19 years old, means she was not even out of her teenage, when she sacrificed her life for the people of France, for the betterment of France. That is why she has attained sainthood in France. Okay, children, so this was the very brave story, or a very inspiring story of patriotism of a very young girl who was actually in her teenage, and this was the age where she would have played, when she would have enjoyed her life, but she sacrificed her life for her nation. Okay, now this was a story. Now there is one small exercise in your textbook about weapons used, but before that let us talk about who has written this. Okay, so this was written in play form by a very decorated playwright, that is George Bernard Shaw, and he is the only person who has won both the Academy Award and the Nobel Prize. So the Academy Award is given for outstanding achievement in the field of cinema, and the Nobel Prize is given for outstanding achievement in any field. Okay, so he was probably the only person who's won both these awards. So that was about who has written this particular part of the play. That is the play which is you see in your textbook. A part of it was written by this person, George Bernard Shaw. Okay, so this is not the entire play, you can say. He's written the play called Saint Joan, but this is not the entire play. This is an excerpt or a piece from that particular play. Now, like I told you, there is a nice exercise about weapons. So let us just see what it is, since this is a war-related lesson. So which are the weapons used in the past? So see, these are the various weapons which were used in wars when people went to war in the past. Okay, they were very old, ancient kind of weapons with no machines and no mechanisms. Alright, see, these are some more. Alright, basic weapons. Some more. Maybe these kind of weapons were used by Queen Lakshmi Bai. It was used by Joan of Arc. Okay, to fight wars in the ancient time, in the past. What about the weapons which are used nowadays? See, these are light machine guns. Alright, they can fire hundreds of bullets in a second. And then we have these kind of guns using laser. Alright, see, these are all the kind of weapons that are used in today's times, nowadays, modern weapons. Remember, if you compare both these weapons together, you will see that weapons used in the past did not cause mass damage or destruction, like the weapons which are used now. For example, you can see this fighter plane dropping bombs, okay, and bombs which look like this and which can blow up areas which cover hundreds of kilometers. Okay, children, so this is also one more part from the text. Now we will directly go and we will try and do some grammar exercises from your textbook. And what is the grammar exercise that you have in your textbook this time? In this lesson, there are phrasal verbs that you have to learn about. Okay, so now phrasal verbs are verbs which are combined with prepositions or adverbs. So we will learn about phrasal verbs also as part of this lesson. So hope children you've been able to understand what the story of Joan was. And now we are going to the next part of our lesson, that is we will do some grammar exercises in this lesson. So see, when you add different prepositions to the same action verb, it changes the meaning of the phrases which are thus formed. So now we will not discuss in deep the meaning of prepositions and the meaning of action verb, because now we are in the 10th standard and we've been learning about this since I think we were in the 4th and 5th standard. We know what are action verbs, we know what are prepositions. So we will directly take some examples from your textbook. So let us pick up this particular verb, call. Okay, now call is an action verb. Now when you combine call with different prepositions, what are the different meanings that come out of it? So when you combine call with out, okay, so call is the verb here and out is the preposition, then we arrive at a meaning announce. So when you call out to someone means you're announcing something, and when you announce something means you're saying something aloud so that so many people will be able to hear it. So call plus out means announce. Let us look at call plus at. So call plus at here has a different meaning, and that is visit someone. So when you add at with call, you are going to visit someone, and when you add out with call, you're going to announce something. Okay, when you visit someone, when do you visit someone? When someone is not well, or when you have been invited, or when you have a new neighbor in your area or your society, you tend to go and visit that person. Alright children, let us look at a few more examples. So call, when you combine with for, that is what? You're calling for someone means you're summoning someone. What is the meaning of summon? Summon means order someone to be present. So this is a gavel. Okay, you must have seen judges use this kind of gavel in order to summon people, summon culprits, summon the police, etc. to the courtroom. So when you call for someone means you're summoning, you're ordering someone to be present before you. When you combine call with up, call up means what are you doing? You are just making a telephonic call that we all do nowadays. So we are calling someone up, we are dialing someone's number and we are talking to that person. Okay children, so these are some basic examples of phrasal verbs. Phrases which have got a verb and a preposition or sometimes even an adverb. Okay, let us look at the differences in meanings now of these phrasal verbs. Now these are exercises from your textbooks, okay. So look at the first example. He promised to look into the matter. So to look into, so you have the verb to look and you are adding it to the preposition into. So what meaning comes out of it? To examine the facts. When you look into something, what do? You examine the facts. Okay. Let us take another example of a preposition with to look. So when you say he asked me to look for his book, he asked me to look for his lost book. So here what are you doing? To look for means you're hoping to get something that you have lost but you want or need desperately. Okay, so you have lost maybe something and then you are frantically searching for it. So that is the meaning of to look for. Okay, children, so see, to look into and to look for has got such diverse things. Let us take a few more examples. So an epidemic of cholera broke out in the village. So here, breaking out means to start or to begin suddenly. Now we are now in the middle of a pandemic. That is, it is one step ahead of an epidemic. Okay, the COVID pandemic. So a COVID pandemic has broken out, not in the village, but in the entire world. So suddenly start or to begin without any notice. Then another example with the verb broke. So the thieves broke into the locked house. Now here breaking in means to enter or open a place forcibly, to enter someone's house or to get into somebody's property without permission. So see how the thieves are in the dark of the night trying to break into a locked house. So you see, when you combine broke with out, the meaning is different, and when you combine broke with into, the meaning is different. So these are some examples of phrasal verbs from your textbook. So let us now come and finally understand or revise what are phrasal verbs. So a phrasal verb is a verb plus a preposition or an adverb, which creates a meaning different from the original verb. Okay, for example, see, we looked at these examples. Look into and broke out. Let us take a few more examples. So you have, I ran into my teacher at the movies last night. So here running means this kind of running, physically running. But when you run into someone means you are meeting someone. Okay, so this child met his teacher at the movies or at the cinema theater last night. One more example, he ran away when he was 15. Now here running means not the action of running that you can see here, but here running means leaving your home and going away. Alright children, so these are some phrasal verbs for you. We discussed that she was a very brave young girl who fought for her country against the British, and unfortunately at a very young age, she was just in her teenage when she had to sacrifice her life for her motherland. And it is said that Joan got a vision from God. That is, she was the person who was told directly by God that she should go ahead and she should fight for her motherland. So what did she say? She said, I place my trust in God, my creator, in all things. I love him with all my heart. So whatever Jane has done for her nation, she has given credit of all that to the Almighty. Okay, so this was a story of Joan of Arc that we saw last time. Now we will look at some grammar exercises from this particular lesson. Now if you remember children, last time we did a grammar exercise based on, let us go back and check what we did last time quickly. So we did a grammar exercise based on phrasal verbs. Okay, you remember we did this exercise based on phrasal verb. Alright, see, we looked at how phrasal verbs work and what is the meaning of phrasal verb, and in the phrasal verb how the meaning of the main verb changes when you add a different preposition to it. So this was what we studied last time. Now let us move on and let us see what is the other exercise in English grammar or vocabulary in your lesson for this week. So give me a minute before we get back to where we left. Okay, so we looked at phrasal verbs last time. So here we are and we come back to the grammar exercise that we have for today. So we are going to talk about types of sentences today. Alright, now types of sentences children, you know, are of various different types. You have interrogative sentences, you have assertive sentences, but in today's exercise we will look at two types of sentences. One is negative sentence and one is positive sentence. So let us now see what are negative sentences. So we will look at negative sentences, we will look at affirmative sentences, and we will see how negative sentences are changed into affirmative sentences without changing the meaning. Okay, so before going there, before doing transformation, now these kind of exercises, children, are called as transformation exercises, where you change the pattern or you change the form of a sentence. But while doing that, here in this particular exercise, we are going to make sure that we do not change the meaning of these sentences. So in today's exercise, we will look at negative sentences and how we can change these negative sentences into affirmative sentences without changing their meanings. But before we see what is the transformation like, how it has to be done, let us try and understand the basic meaning of these type of sentences. So the first type of sentence is affirmative sentence. Now when I say affirmative, it could also be read as positive sentence. Okay, so an affirmative sentence just tells you that something is happening. Okay, an affirmative sentence states a fact. It tells you that there is something which is happening. Okay, so what is the structure of an affirmative sentence? Now look at the arrow moving on your screen. So in an affirmative sentence, there is a subject, there is am, is or are, which are the modal auxiliaries or the helping verbs, and there is a present participle of the verb. So look at the examples. He is jumping. They are going to the store. I am making cookies. So you will see here, this is something about a process which is happening. So he is doing what? He is jumping. What are they doing? They are going to the store. And what am I doing? I am making cookies. So these are all the examples, you can say, of affirmative sentences. So in an affirmative sentence, one more thing that you have to think about and observe is there is not a single negative word in these affirmative sentences, isn't it? So see here, let us look at some examples of affirmative sentences, and let us also try and see what is the special thing about affirmative sentences. So what are affirmative sentences? Those sentences which do not have a negative word. That is, words like not or no will not be there in an affirmative sentence. Okay, and an affirmative sentence ends with a full stop. So these are all examples of affirmative sentences. Let's read the examples. So Priya works in Gujarat Gas. What does Priya do? She works in Gujarat Gas. You are very intelligent. I am having lunch. He was working on this project yesterday. He has been working since 9 a.m. You play cricket well. We had reached Delhi safely. So like I told you, it is a statement about something which is happening now or something which is a fact. Okay, so Priya works, you are intelligent, I am having lunch, he was working. So these are all affirmative sentences. Notice them once again. There is not a single word which says no or which says not or which says does not. Okay, so there is no negative word and there is a full stop at the end of all these sentences. So these are all examples of affirmative sentences. Let us move on and let us see what are negative sentences. Now negative sentences means in an affirmative or a positive sentence there was not a single negative word, but in a negative sentence there will be a negative word. So look at the structure of the negative sentence. So there is a subject, there is a helping verb, there is a not or no, it could change depending on the sentence, okay? And there is a main verb and then there is the object. So these are examples, or this is the structure of the sentence for a negative sentence. So children, now we saw what is the meaning of affirmative sentence and some examples of affirmative sentence. We also now saw what is the negative sentence, and we saw a structure for a negative sentence. Let us look at some examples of negative sentences. I have tried to rephrase the affirmative sentence examples and present to you as negative. So let us see the same examples. All right. So negative sentences will have no and not, and it will also end on a full stop. So these are the things which make a negative sentence different from an affirmative sentence. In an affirmative sentence, there was no, no and no, not. But in a negative sentence, you will see words like no and not being used. So let us look at the examples here. Priya is not working these days. Okay? You were not present in the class yesterday. There are no students in the class now. Kamal doesn't have a car. Doesn't means does not have a car. I could not complete your work yesterday. She didn't bring my book that day. There was no water in the lake. We have no light in our house today. So you will see, let us go back quickly to the affirmative sentence example so you know here. So Priya works in a Gujarat. We will just look at the first one. Priya works in Gujarat Gas. So this was the affirmative sentence example, and when we saw the negative sentence example, we saw Priya is not working these days. So she's not working for Gujarat Gas. Alright, but remember children, when we did this particular exercise, the meaning has changed. In the affirmative example, Priya was working, and here Priya is not working. But the exercise that we have in our textbook today, we are supposed to make this transformation without changing the meaning. So let us see how we are going to do it. So this is the exercise from your textbook. We will discuss this, and we will also discuss the reverse, that is affirmative to negative. Also we will try and discuss today. So look at the example number 1. Negative is I'm not so sure now. I am not so sure. This is negative. I am not so sure now means I don't have the confidence, and I am not sure now. Okay, I am having a lot of doubt. So remember, when you are writing it in the affirmative form, you should leave out the word not. But if I say I am sure now, then the meaning becomes the opposite. I am not so sure now. If I make it I'm sure now, meaning becomes opposite. That is not what we are expected to do today. We are expected to drop the not without changing the basic meaning. Alright, so let's see. I am doubtful today. So what did we do? We searched for the opposite word for sure. Someone can be sure and someone can be doubtful, isn't it? And then we use that word doubtful here without using the no or without using the not. So, I am not so sure now. When you change it into affirmative, you write, I am doubtful now. See, you're not at all changed the meaning. You are doubtful means you're not sure. Okay, children? So this is example number 1 of how you change a negative sentence into an affirmative sentence without changing the meaning. And this is a print from your textbook, so you will find these particular examples in your textbook as well. And if time permits, you can write it down also in your book. Okay? Next example, he will not be able to stop them. So here we have to drop the not, but we do not have to change the meaning. So he will not be able to stop them. If you write it in the affirmative, we will try and drop this not be able. Okay? And what will we make it? Let us see how we have changed it. He will fail to stop them. See how tactfully we have changed the not, but we have not changed the meaning. Now children, for doing such exercises, your vocabulary should be very good. That is, your knowledge of words should be very good. So you should know which word you will replace with which other word and not change the meaning. Okay? And if you want to improve your vocabulary, children, what should you do? You should keep on reading. Okay? And you should refer to the dictionary on and off. You should always make the dictionary a part of your English lesson. So whenever you open your textbook, you should also keep your dictionary open with you whenever you're learning English. If you put in such little efforts, remember your vocabulary will become very good. Next example, I don't remember. I don't remember. So don't here is our negative word. So what is the affirmative form without changing meaning? I have forgotten. Okay? I can do no more. So how do you change it into affirmative? You remove the no more and you make it I am done with this. Negative. Sir, do not anger her. So do not we will change, and to put it into the affirmative we will say, sir, please humor her. So don't make her angry, humor her. Negative. I shall not want many soldiers. Affirmative. We will change the not want and we will make it I need very few soldiers. Now there is one thing which is left out here, children. That is, you have to put a full stop, okay, after all these sentences. Now that during typing that got left out, but remember, full stop here. I am doubtful now, full stop. He will fail to stop them, full stop. I have forgotten, full stop. I am done with this, full stop. Sir, please humor her, full stop. I need few soldiers, full stop. Okay, so remember, this is a very important thing and it skipped while doing the typing. Okay, so let's move on and let us go to an exercise in the reverse now. We will do an exercise in the reverse order. That is, we will try to make an affirmative sentence a negative sentence. So let's start. You're going to convert or you're going to transform an affirmative sentence into a negative sentence. I've tried and used almost the same kind of words. So affirmative, I was doubtful whether it was you. Okay, if you want to make it negative, you will change the doubtful and you will add some word with no or not. So it will be I was not sure that it was you. Okay, example number 2. Everybody was present. So now everybody was present. So this was present is the positive part of our sentence. You have to change it. What will you do? Nobody is absent. So here everybody is present and nobody is absent. Alright. Third example, affirmative, all cheered. How will you put it into negative? There was no one present who did not cheer. So in this way, the negative sentences can also be changed into affirmative sentences as well. So children, in today's lesson, we talked a little bit about Joan of Arc. We talked about how we can change a negative sentence into an affirmative sentence and the reverse, that is an affirmative sentence into a negative sentence. We also talked about the meaning of affirmative sentence, the meaning of negative sentence, etc.
So children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions. And note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form. There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learnt a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.